So thank you so much for joining us here at Lovely Being You. Now, of course, I've told you of the many of stories that I've had growing up. But when we look at certain things do stand out. Like me having to live with another family altogether because my stepmother and my father thought it would be a better choice because they didn't want me in the same home. And then when we think about other things that happen, like even my mother figure calling me little sister every time she needed to correct me. What if all of the different stories that I've told you were mere experiences and this not being my family, you know? Right now, I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, you know? And family could be telling people that they don't know where I live, you know? But yet they've been in the background watching and stalking. One of the reasons why the self-love journey is so important is because when you love yourself, you're going to persevere through all of the different disadvantages because you did not reach out for something outside of you. Meditation, loving yourself, praying, reading literature that will enhance your spirituality, all those things work in your favor of self-love. When you look at people and you say, they reach for that alcohol, they reach for those drugs, they're reaching for these things because this is what they feel is going to help them. But when you tap into your intuition, that's a form of self-love. You're using tools that you've been provided spiritually to get you where you need to go. Now, if my family, my true family, suppose I was adopted into this family, and one of the reasons why they had to take out my mother figure was because she was going to tell me the truth. If I've been living in an orchestrated, let's say, a fake story for most of my life, because usually when a person enters another family and they're adopted when they're too young to understand or know what's truly going on. It's an orchestration that people came up with for a reason. Why would these people do such a thing is what you might say. Money can cause a lot of confusion, paying people off because they don't want these people to tell the truth. The truth shall set us all free is another video that I put out years ago. In fact, maybe a year ago. We sometimes, less than a year ago now, I think about it, but I wasn't on TikTok at the time either. What you've got to realize is that sometimes you've got to look beyond what you think you know. There's so many children and so many families that think that this has been their family, which it was not. When I think of all the different experiences that I've had, it would make more sense that I would not be from this family. And all the moving that we did growing up would tell another portion of the story. Every house that we lived in, somehow there was a great deal of confusion. How did they get the house? My father said, oh, we put $1 down. But how was the mortgage paid for if your business never functioned and flourished the way that it should have? Another reason why a person's business would not flourish and work out the way that they would have wanted it to be is because they were doing something wrong. Your karma will come back to you in so many different ways. There's not just one label of karma. When you do dirt to other people, you mistreat other people, the karma comes back to you in different ways. It's not going to be coming back to you in the way that you might consider it, because of course God is very creative. People getting certain sicknesses and they say, wow, why would God let this person? Maybe you should look at maybe somehow what the person might have done himself or herself, because certain things happen for a reason. Everything has a reason, and you cannot say coincidence. Coincidence is coincidence, but we are not looking at coincidence in the correct way. God shows you in different ways why the outcome is what it is. We have too many people who have been separated from their families in so many different reasons and so many different ways. But in the end result is God will put certain people in different positions for a reason. Today I had an incident on the bus where the guy was yelling at the bus driver and mistreating the bus driver. And I sat for a period of time and I kept saying, oh my goodness, please. And this guy would not, he just kept on, ramping on this bus driver. Now, let me just say this. If a bus driver is in a certain position, he's in that position for a reason. He received that job for a reason. He went through training for a reason. Now, when the bus stopped, I believe that the bus driver pressed the button and he might have been confused as to which button he pressed. And he wasn't sure of which button to press again to put the bus back on track. So I believe the hazard lights were blinking. One of the people boarding the bus told him, something's wrong, the hazard lights are on. But he was so busy trying to get everybody, because he was already behind schedule, he was trying to get everyone to where they needed to be, and then he was going to check it, I'm assuming. I'm only going based upon the customer status. So he says, they did not give you this training in your CDL. And he kept on going on and on and on. Now, mind you, I was on a train. I wasn't even supposed to get on the bus, but I got on the bus because I wanted to make sure that the store was where it was supposed to be, because I have to make certain errands on a specific day, and I needed to make sure that I outlined my trip the way that I needed it to go. I didn't want to get off the bus and pay another fare. So I got on the bus and said, okay, I'm going to take care of this on another day, but today I need to make sure that I orchestrate this plan in place the way that I needed it to go. So God kept on yelling and kept on yelling, and I noticed that when you yell at anyone and the person and another guy on the back of the bus was yelling, I felt like they were basically being a bully to my bus driver, so I had to step in. So I said, excuse me, would you please, I said, could you calm it down? And he's like, who were you to say? And he called me the B word. Now, that B word usually sends different colors roaming sometimes. But I said, you know what? He just is on a whole different page today. So I said again, I said, could you please, because he started again, ramping on the bus driver. And the guy in the back was his backup singer. And he continued to yell at the bus driver. And there was a woman back there who was yelling and arguing with an invisible person seated next to her. So, of course, the bus driver, now he's not driving as conscious as he should be, because now his focus is off. So now I believe that all of our lives are in danger. So I told the guy, again, I said, would you please calm it down? Who the F are you? You don't need to tell me that. I said, let me tell you something. You're not the only person on this bus. And I said, and that bus driver was given his CDLs for a reason. He said, well, he ain't the only one. I got my CDL, so you don't know what you're talking. I said, and I also have my CDLs. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this driver needs his focus if he's going to drive this bus in the correct capacity. Well, he said what he said or whatever, and I said, you know what, I'm glad that we are going closer to the end of this drive, because this is getting ridiculous. So finally, I guess after me telling him that I was not going to, I no longer wanted to hear what he had to say, he started calming down, and the bus driver had to, at the stoplight, turn back to see who I was talking to, because he already knew who the guy was. But I realized bus drivers cannot speak on their own behalf sometimes, because this is their job, and they don't want to be in a situation where they might lose their job. So between us going back and forth, he decided he was going to calm down. I'm just saying, I could have been quiet throughout the trip, but again, when a bus driver is being bullied, what is his position? We all have a certain position in life, and none of us needs to be bullied, stalked, or otherwise. I've been stalked and mistreated by people who I once thought was my family, and they got upset because I decided to leave an unhealthy environment. And by me leaving an unhealthy environment, they decided that they were going to say things against me, make up all sorts of stories about me. No one invited me to the courtroom for me to speak on my behalf. So I speak on this platform to make sure that I show that I am an individual who has to speak up for myself. And if I'm speaking up for myself, that is a form of self-love as well. So whenever you are mistreated, and you even go to the police department and you speak on a certain part and they say you don't have certain proof, I am making sure that I speak on my behalf, and I believe that everyone should have a voice in being able to defend themselves. So when we look at our self-journey, our self-love journey, you meditate and you pray and you ask for God's direction. And sometimes it might not seem as though you're being heard, but under no uncertain terms do you give up on yourself. Self-love is what we're feeding here, and self-love is what we're eating here, and self-love is what we're doing here. When I say that it is lovely being you on all parts, sure, we're going to make mistakes. Sure, we're going to find ourselves in situations where we feel like someone is not hearing us, but you do not give up on yourself. And that's the main point. Love yourself. Love even the journey, because each journey is going to teach you something more about yourself and more about even the people in your surroundings. But know that you are loved. God is helping you, and so are your ancestors on so many different levels. And although you don't always see it, it is never a time where you should give up on yourself. Continue to love yourself. And I'm not saying speak up on all affairs, but I felt like my bus driver needed my help at that time. And the people on the bus needed help because they thought they didn't have a voice. There was no way that God was going to be quiet unless someone spoke up. And my bus driver needed my help during that time. So it's important that we not fight. We find different nice ways of handling different things. But sometimes you either have to speak up or call the police. Either way, one of the ways is going to have to work on your behalf, because it is so lovely being you. You do have a voice, and you do have a choice. Love yourself first. Thank you.